The doctor secretly slipped me a folded note that said, "Don't go back home. Run." That same night, I learned my own family was trying to lock me away in a nursing home so they could take everything I owned. But what they didn't realize was that I held a secret that would turn their world upside down. My name is Martha Caldwell, and I'm 70 years old. For 45 years, I believed I had raised a good son. Benjamin came into my life at just 2 years old, an abandoned child my husband and I took in and adopted. With every bit of love I had, I gave him everything, schooling, affection, and decades of sacrifice. When my husband died 10 years ago, Benjamin became my only close family, along with his wife Eleanor and my granddaughter Olivia. But that Tuesday, during what should have been a normal doctor's visit, everything changed for me. Dr. Elliot Sterling, the physician I had trusted for years, examined me like always, but something in his behavior wasn't right. His hands shook a little while checking my blood pressure, and he avoided looking directly at me. "You're doing great, Mrs. Caldwell," he said with a tense voice. "Your tests are excellent, your heart is strong. You've got many healthy years ahead." As I stood to leave, I felt him come up behind me. While I was reaching for my purse, Dr. Sterling quickly slipped a folded note into it so smoothly that I almost missed it. "Take care of yourself, Mrs. Caldwell," he said, forcing a smile. "And don't forget, family isn't always what it seems." His words gave me a chill. What was he trying to tell me? Why would he pass me a note in secret? I walked out with my heart racing, but I chose not to read the message until I got home. Sitting in the taxi, my mind spun in circles. Dr. Sterling had never behaved so strangely. He'd always been a calm, serious man who had known Benjamin since his teenage years. Why was he slipping me warnings now? When I reached the house, Benjamin was in the living room with Eleanor and Olivia. They were speaking quietly, but they instantly went silent when I stepped in. Eleanor held several documents that she quickly shifted behind her back. "How did your appointment go, Mom?" Benjamin asked, his smile failing to reach his eyes. "Everything's just fine," I answered, trying to stay calm. "The doctor said my health is perfect." Eleanor and Benjamin exchanged a look they clearly didn't want me to notice. Why did they look let down? Were they hoping he'd found me unwell? "That's wonderful, Grandma," Olivia said, but her tone was oddly cold. "It means you'll have lots of time left to enjoy things." That evening at dinner, their behavior grew even more unnerving. Benjamin barely spoke to me. Eleanor answered only in single words, and Olivia wouldn't even look at me. The tension in the room was thick and silent. "Is something bothering you?" I finally asked. "No, Mom. Everything's fine," Benjamin said quickly. "We're just worn out. After we ate, I went to my room filled with worry. Something was definitely happening, and that note from the doctor suddenly seemed very important." With shaking hands, I pulled it from my purse and opened it. What I read left me breathless. "Mrs. Caldwell, your family came yesterday. Eleanor asked me about your mental condition and if I could certify that you need specialized care. They want to place you in a nursing home. They also inquired about your estate and belongings. Don't go home. Run, Dr. Sterling." My fingers began to tremble violently. My own family, the boy I had loved like my own flesh, the daughter-in-law I had embraced like blood, the granddaughter I adored all her life. Everything suddenly fit. The odd stares, the whispers, the hidden pages. They weren't upset because I was healthy. They were angry the doctor hadn't helped them with their scheme. I couldn't sleep a minute that night. Every sound made me jump. I lay awake wondering how everything had come to this. How could the people I had given everything for be plotting against me? At 2 a.m, I heard voices in the kitchen. Quietly, I got out of bed and moved toward my door. I could clearly hear Benjamin, Eleanor, and Olivia speaking in low tones, quiet, but clear enough for me to catch every sentence. "The stupid doctor refused to help," Eleanor muttered in frustration. "I told him the old woman is losing her memory, that she forgets people, that she leaves the stove on. But he insisted she's fine. "Calm down, darling," Benjamin responded. "We'll find another doctor who will sign the paperwork we need." "And what do we do with her until then?" Olivia asked. "I already registered for my spot at the college in the US. I need that money now, not 5 years from now when she finally dies of old age." "Olivia, don't speak like that," Benjamin said, though he didn't sound truly offended. "But you're not wrong. We need to move quickly. The house is worth nearly $500,000, and with her savings and pension, we could live comfortably until she's gone," Eleanor added coldly. "Listen, I didn't marry into this family to take care of an aging woman," she continued. "I married you because I assumed the inheritance would come sooner. It's been a decade and she's still here spending our money." "My money," I repeated silently as anger started burning in my chest. "Everything my husband and I worked hard for, they were already claiming as theirs. Tomorrow I'll speak to the lawyer," Benjamin went on. "I'll ask if we can have her ruled incompetent without a medical signature. There must be a way. And if that doesn't work," Eleanor said, "we can just make living here unbearable until she agrees to go to a nursing facility on her own. Take away her television, stop cooking for her, treat her exactly as she is. A burden. Mom, don't be so heartless," Olivia said, but then she added, "Though honestly, I'm tired of pretending I care about her. She's always around, interrupting our talks, asking why we come home so late. It's exhausting." My knees started shaking, and I pressed myself against the wall as my world collapsed inside my chest. These were the people I worked 18-hour days for when Benjamin was small. I gave up my hopes, my friendships, my own life for them. "Do you remember my 15th birthday?" Olivia went on. "She bought me that awful red dress and made me wear it. Everyone laughed at me. From that day, I swore I'd pay her back. And what irritates me most," Eleanor added, "is how she's always bragging about being such a good mother, about all the sacrifices she made for Benjamin, like she's a saint. The truth is, she adopted him because she couldn't have kids of her own. She just used him to fill her emptiness." "Enough," Benjamin said, but he sounded more worn out than angry. "In a week, I'll talk to her. I'll tell her we found a nice nursing place, that she'd be happier with people her age. And if she says no, we move to Plan B." "What's Plan B?" Olivia asked. "We'll drive her actually insane," Benjamin said in a chilling tone. "We'll mess up her medication. We'll hide her belongings. We'll insist she did things she never did. In a month, any doctor will sign off that she's mentally unstable." His words hit me like a blow. They didn't just want to take my home and money. They wanted to wipe out my mind, my pride, and my very identity. They wanted to turn me into exactly what they were claiming I had already become. "It's perfect," Eleanor said with excitement. "And once she's locked away, we'll have access to all her accounts. We can sell the house, take her pension, and get rid of everything without anyone interfering." "Exactly," Benjamin agreed. "And the best part is nobody will suspect anything. Everyone thinks we're the ideal family, lovingly caring for a frail grandmother." They laughed. All three of them laughed like they just shared the funniest joke possible. They were laughing at me, at how easily I trusted them, at the devotion I'd shown them without hesitation. In that moment, something deep within me snapped. My heart had already been torn to pieces when I read the doctor's message. But what truly shattered was my blind trust in human decency, my belief that love is returned when given, my certainty that family is sacred. "Tomorrow morning, I'm going to make copies of all her cards," Eleanor whispered. "That way, we can spend bit by bit and she won't notice." "Perfect," Benjamin said. "And I'm going through her documents. There must be a will somewhere we can adjust." "Adjust it how?" Olivia asked. "Let's just say that in her confusion, She decided to leave it all to us because we're the only ones who care. Benjamin said with a smug tone. Dad, you're brilliant. Olivia praised. But we need to be cautious. What if someone catches on? Nobody will. Eleanor, she has no friends, no relatives besides us. She's just a lonely old woman who relies on us for everything. Who could possibly defend her? They were right. I had no close friends left. I lost touch with most people when I devoted myself completely to raising Benjamin. I had no brothers or sisters. My parents passed away long ago. I was completely exposed. But what they didn't know, what they'd never bothered to ask, was that I had a secret. A secret that would flip all of this in an instant. When my husband died, he left me more than love and memories. He left behind an inheritance I'd kept hidden all these years, $2.2 million in an offshore account known only to me, plus 3 overseas properties he had acquired as investments. I never told Benjamin because I wanted to be sure he loved me as his mother, not as a bank account. I wanted him to make his own way, to stand on his own. But now I understood how wrong I had been. He never loved me. He was simply waiting for me to die so he could inherit the scraps he thought existed. Well, Benjamin said at last, I think we all know what to do. Tomorrow we start the plan. And remember, when she's around, we keep acting like the caring family we've always pretended to be. Of course, Eleanor said smugly. I'm a great actress. I can fake loving her a little longer. I heard their footsteps drifting away toward their rooms. I stayed still, gripping the doctor's note in my hand. He was right. I had to run, but I wasn't going to run like some frightened victim. I was going to run like a woman waking up from a 45-year sleep. I was going to run so I could plan the most devastating revenge they could ever imagine. I spent the rest of that night thinking everything through. I didn't sleep, not even a minute, but for the first time in months, I felt fully alive. I knew I needed to move quickly and wisely. They had underestimated the frail old woman, but soon they would understand they had awakened the wrong person. At 5 a.m, once I was sure the house was quiet, I quietly took a small suitcase and packed only what mattered. Important documents, some clothing, my medicine, and most importantly, the notebook where I kept all the information about my hidden accounts. Before leaving, I did something to secure an advantage. I pulled out my phone and started a voice recording. Then I pretended to have forgotten something and walked around the house, making sure to pass near Benjamin and Eleanor's room. Just as I thought, they were already awake, whispering about their agenda for the day. Eleanor was talking about copying my bank cards, while Benjamin mentioned going to see a lawyer to ask about declaring me unfit. Do you think she has any idea? Eleanor asked nervously. No chance, Benjamin said. She's too old and trusting, and even if she did guess something, what could she do? She has nowhere to run. She has no money of her own. She has no one to turn to. We're all she's got. It's sad, really, Eleanor added with disdain. A 70-year-old woman totally dependent on us. Sometimes I almost pity her, but then I remember she chose this. She could have remarried after her husband died, but no, she preferred to stay here playing the devoted grandmother. And now she'll pay for that choice. Benjamin ended coldly. Exactly. I had captured enough evidence to destroy them. I stopped the recording, put my phone away, and got ready to leave. On the kitchen table, I placed a short note that read, "Went out to run a few errands. Back later." Martha, I knew they wouldn't suspect a thing. In their minds, a senile old woman making a strategic escape was unimaginable. I called a cab to the closest bank. It was Wednesday morning, and I estimated I had a few hours before they noticed something was wrong. At the bank, I withdrew a large amount of cash and double. Checked that my secret accounts were untouched. The teller, a young clerk named Patricia, looked surprised when I asked for $5 in cash. "Are you sure, ma'am?" "That's quite a lot to carry," she said with genuine concern. "Absolutely. I answered with confidence. I have personal matters to attend to. After leaving the bank, I took another cab to the most upscale hotel in the city. I needed a safe, private place to plan my next move. The Grand Imperial Hotel was ideal. Quiet, comfortable, and respectful of privacy. How long will you be staying? The receptionist, a polished woman in her 40s, asked me. I'm not sure, I replied. Maybe a week. Maybe several months. It depends on how certain family matters turn out. She nodded professionally and gave me a suite on the 10th floor. As I rode the elevator up, I felt a rush of fear mixed with adrenaline. For the first time in decades, I was making choices purely for myself. The suite was lovely, spacious, with a view over the city, beautifully furnished, and equipped with everything I needed. I sat on the couch in the living area and, for the first time since the night before, let everything wash over me. I cried. I cried for the 45 years I spent raising a son who saw me as an obstacle. I cried for every insult I endured without even noticing. I cried for the version of myself that existed before I became the perfect grandmother they resented. But once the tears ended, I dried my face and started planning. I opened my notebook and made a list of what I needed to do. First, contact my international financial advisors to activate my assets. Second, hire the most skilled lawyer in the city. Third, find a private investigator who could help me gather proof of everything my family had done and intended to do. At 2 p.m, my phone rang. It was Benjamin. Mom, where are you? It's the middle of the day and you're not back yet. His voice sounded anxious, but underneath it I could hear irritation. I'm fine, dear, I said evenly. I decided to take a day to myself. It's been so long since I've done that. A day for yourself. What is that supposed to mean? Where are you right now? His tone was sharp. I'm in the city handling some personal matters. I lied partially. Don't worry. I'll return when I'm done. Mom, this isn't like you. You always tell us where you're going. Eleanor is worried and so is Olivia. We need to know where you are. For the first time in years, I heard something in his voice that startled me. Panic. He wasn't afraid for my safety. He was terrified because he'd lost control. You know what, Benjamin, I said, surprising even myself with how calm I sounded. I'm 70 years old. I think I'm old enough to decide where I go and what I do. Silence stretched on the other end of the line. Mom, you're scaring me. You don't sound like yourself. Are you taking your medication? He asked. And with that, I heard the first move in their plan. He was already planting the idea that I wasn't mentally stable. I'm perfectly fine, son. I've never been better, I said, and hung up. Right after I turned off my phone. I knew they'd start calling nonstop, and I needed quiet to do what had to be done. That afternoon, I hired the most prestigious law firm in the city. The head attorney, a man in his 50s named Dr. Graham Montgomery, saw me personally the moment I mentioned how much I was prepared to pay. I need full legal protection, I told him. My family is trying to have me declared incompetent so they can take my assets, but I have recordings that prove it's a conspiracy. Dr. Montgomery listened closely as I played the audio I'd captured that morning. With every minute, his expression grew darker. Mrs. Caldwell, this is extremely serious, he said at last. What your family is plotting amounts to elder abuse, conspiracy to commit fraud, and potentially forgery. We can pursue criminal charges. That's exactly what I want, I said firmly. But I want to do it strategically. I want them to pay, but in the most painful way possible. Duck. Montgomery gave a slow, satisfied smile, the look of a man who just found a case worth fighting. Mrs. Caldwell, I think you and I are going to work very well together, he said. I'll assign my best team to your case, but I need you to tell me everything. And I mean everything. So I did. I told him about adopting Benjamin, my husband, the sacrifices, the hidden inheritance, everything. He took careful notes. Then he asked, do you know exactly how much is in those accounts? $2.2 million in cash, plus 3 overseas properties worth about $1.5 million more, I answered. He stopped writing and looked at me with new respect. Mrs. Caldwell, you're not just a victim of family abuse. You're a powerful woman who's been underestimated. And we're going to use that power to teach them the lesson of their lives. For the first time in days, I smiled for real. The war had started, and now I finally had the right weapons. That night, in the peace of my hotel suite, I turned my phone back on to check my messages. 37 missed calls from Benjamin, 15 from Eleanor, 8 from Olivia. The texts were getting frantic. Mom, please answer. We're really worried. Martha, if you don't respond, we're calling the police. Grandma, where are you? Dad says you're going to get in trouble. I chose to reply only to Benjamin. I'm fine, don't worry. I'll come back when I'm ready. His reply was instant. Mom, this isn't normal. You need to come home now. Eleanor made your favorite dinner, his favorite lie. As if after 45 years he didn't know Eleanor had never cooked anything special for me in her life. Just one more bit of manipulation. The next morning, Dr. Montgomery called early. Mrs. Caldwell, I have some interesting news. My private investigator has already started digging into your case and found something important. Your daughter-in-law has been using your personal information to open credit cards in your name for the last 6 months. What? I burst out, fury rising again. She has 5 cards you never authorized with a total debt of $43,000, purchases at luxury boutiques, high-end restaurants, even a trip to the Florida Keys last month. But I never went to the Florida Keys, I said, stunned. No, ma'am, they did. They took a week-long vacation with your money while telling you they were visiting Eleanor's sick mother. The memory hit me like a slap. I remembered the tears, the lies, the money I handed over on top of the debt they were already racking up behind my back. What else did your investigator find? I asked, bracing myself. Your son Benjamin lost his job 8 months ago. He's been living off your pension and savings. And he's already contacted 3 doctors, trying to find one willing to certify you as senile. Each truth was a deeper wound. They hadn't just planned to steal from me. They'd already been doing it. And Olivia? I asked quietly. She has her own secrets, he said. She's 3 months pregnant and lying to her parents about the father. The real father is a married 50-year-old man who promised to leave his wife, but now wants nothing to do with her. Oh my God, I whispered. My granddaughter, the girl I helped raise, was entangled in a disaster that could ruin her life. There's more, Dr. Montgomery said. Eleanor has been having an affair with your neighbor Dave for the past 2 years. My investigator has photos and videos to prove it. Dave, Carol's husband. I asked, remembering the kind woman next door. That's right. Apparently Eleanor and Dave meet at a motel every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon, while Benjamin thinks she's at yoga. The irony hit hard. While they were plotting to destroy my life by calling me unstable, each one of them was living a lie worse than anything they accused me of. Dr. Montgomery, I want everything documented, I said, my resolve sharpening. Every lie, every theft, every betrayal. When the moment comes to confront them, I want undeniable proof. Of course, Mrs. Caldwell, he said. But let me suggest something. Rather than confronting them immediately, why not give them a little more rope to hang themselves with? That afternoon, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went shopping. I visited the most elegant boutiques in the city and bought 3 stunning dresses. 1 classic black, 1 bold red, and 1 emerald green that made me feel invincible. I added new shoes, a real leather handbag, and then headed to the most exclusive salon in town. The stylist, a young woman named Sophia, worked on my hair for 3 hours. You have beautiful hair, she said as she combed through it. Why have you neglected it so much? Because for years, I told her honestly. I convinced myself I wasn't worth the effort. I believed my purpose was to be the invisible grandmother who takes care of everyone else. Well, those days are over, she said with conviction. When I'm done with you, you'll look like the queen you've always been. She wasn't wrong. When I looked in the mirror afterward, I barely recognized the woman staring back. My hair was cut in a modern, elegant style, with soft highlights that brightened my face. I looked powerful. That night, while having dinner in the hotel restaurant, I decided to call Benjamin. "Mom, finally! Where the hell have you been?" His voice wasn't worried. It was angry. "Taking care of myself," I replied, calm and steady. I realized I haven't done that in years. "It's been enlightening. Mom, this needs to stop. You can't just disappear. We're your family. We have a right to know where you are. Right?" I repeated slowly. "Since when does my family have a right over me?" "Since you started acting erratically," he said. And there it was again, their attempt to paint me as unstable. Erratic. Does it seem erratic to you that a 70-year-old woman takes a few days for herself? "Yes, when that woman has never done anything like that before," he shot back. "Mom, I think you need to talk to a specialist." "You're acting very strangely." "A specialist?" I asked, feigning confusion. "What kind of specialist?" "Benjamin, a psychologist, Mom. Someone who can help with these behavioral changes." Perfect. He was confessing his intentions on a call I was recording. "You're right," I said. I could hear him exhale in relief. "I do need specialized help." "I'm glad you understand, Mom." "Oh, I understand perfectly. I need a specialist in family fraud, a specialist in elder abuse, and one in psychological manipulation, because that's exactly what all of you have been doing to me." The silence that followed was deafening. "Mom, what are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the fact that I know everything, Benjamin. The fake credit cards Eleanor opened in my name. Your plan to have me declared incompetent. The doctors you contacted. All of it. Mom, that's ridiculous. I don't know what you're talking about. I think you really do need medical help. You know what else I know," I continued. "I know you lost your job 8 months ago and have been living off my money while smiling to my face. I know about the Florida Keys trip you paid for with stolen funds. And I know a lot more. Things you'll find very surprising when you see them in court." "You're being delusional," he said, but his voice had lost its conviction. "Delusional? Last night I heard you planning to switch my medications to push me into psychosis. Is that a delusion too?" This time, the silence lasted longer. "Mom, come home. We can talk about this as a family." "No, Benjamin. We're not a family anymore. Families don't betray each other. Families don't plan to destroy someone mentally just to steal their money. Mom, please? I'm giving you one chance. Just one. Confess everything. Return every penny you've stolen and apologize sincerely. If you do that, maybe, I'll consider forgiveness." "We have nothing to confess," he said, though his voice was shaking. "Then I'll see you in court, son." "Have a good night." I hung up, and for the first time in days, I felt completely at peace. The war was officially declared, and I held every weapon. The days that followed were an emotional whirlwind. My phone rang nonstop with desperate calls. First came fake affection, Olivia sobbing about how much she missed me, Eleanor begging forgiveness for any misunderstandings, Benjamin pleading for me to come home. When that failed, they turned to intimidation. "Mum," Benjamin said in a voicemail, "if you don't come back immediately, we'll have to take legal steps to protect you from yourself. Your erratic behavior is forcing us to pursue guardianship, but Dr. Montgomery had already prepared me. Let them file for guardianship," he'd told me. "It'll be the best evidence of their true intentions. And don't worry, we already have 3 independent psychiatrists ready to certify that you're of sound mind." Meanwhile, my private investigator was relentless. Every day brought a new report more shocking than the last. Mrs. Caldwell. He told me at our Friday meeting, "Your family has accelerated their plans dramatically since you disappeared. Yesterday, Benjamin went to your bank and tried to access your accounts, claiming you'd had a psychotic episode, and he needed temporary control of your finances." "And what did the bank tell him?" I asked. Luckily, the branch manager is very professional. He told Benjamin he'd need official legal documentation before any changes could be made. When Benjamin kept pushing, they had to ask him to leave. And there's more. Yes, Eleanor has been selling your belongings. Yesterday, I saw that she listed several of your antique furniture pieces on an online marketplace. She also attempted to sell your jewelry collection to a pawn shop, but the appraiser rejected it because the pieces clearly belonged to someone older. And Eleanor couldn't prove she had permission to sell them. My heart raced. Those jewels were gifts from my late husband, unique items he had gathered over decades. And my granddaughter Olivia? I asked, feeling a lump in my throat. She has been the most active of all. She has been telling her friends that you're suffering from severe Alzheimer's and that the family is considering having you committed. She's also been using that story to borrow money from different acquaintances, claiming she needs funds for her grandmother's medical expenses. Every new detail hurt more than the last. Not only were they stealing from me, they were ruining my reputation and exploiting my supposed illness to deceive others. But there's something even more interesting. The investigator continued. Last night, the three of them had a meeting at your house with a man our sources identified as Paul Hayes, a document forger known in the city's criminal underworld. A forger? I asked, feeling a chill run through me. They're planning to produce fake medical papers, declaring you mentally incompetent. Paul Hayes specializes in fabricating medical histories and forging doctors' signatures. This was far worse than I had imagined. Not only did they plan to rob me, they were ready to commit several serious crimes to achieve it. Dr. Montgomery. I said over the phone later that afternoon, I think it's time to move ahead with our plans. If we delay any longer, they'll have forged documents that could complicate things. I agree. Mrs. Caldwell. Are you prepared for Phase 2 of our plan? Phase 2 was brilliant in its simplicity. Instead of confronting them directly, we would let them expose themselves in public. On Monday morning, I put on my new elegant black dress, wore my best jewelry, and went to the city's most prestigious real estate firm. I had arranged an appointment to view luxury properties, specifically homes valued at over $1 million. Mrs. Caldwell, the agent, a well-dressed man named Rick, greeted me. It's a pleasure to meet you. I understand you're interested in acquiring a high-value property. That's right, I responded confidently. I'm looking for a home that reflects my new stage of life. Something modern, elegant, and secure. Perfect. I have 3 properties you may like. What Rick didn't know was that my private investigator had organized everything flawlessly. At 11 in the morning, right when we were scheduled to tour the second property, Benjamin, Eleanor, and Olivia would coincidentally show up at the same real estate office. We were in the middle of visiting a stunning mansion when I heard familiar voices at the main entrance. Excuse me, I told Rick. I think a few acquaintances just arrived. When we went to the main lobby, there they were, the 3 of them, dressed in their finest clothes. Speaking to another real estate agent. We're interested in selling a property, I heard Benjamin say. It's my mother's house, but she's unwell, and we have legal authority to manage her affairs. Legal authority? The agent asked. Can you provide the paperwork? Well, we're still finalizing the official documents. Eleanor answered nervously. But it's only a matter of days. We just want to get ahead on the appraisal. Hello, family, I said loudly from the stairs. All 3 turned around at once, and the horror on their faces could have been in a film. Benjamin went pale. Eleanor's mouth opened without a sound, and Olivia actually stepped backward. Mom, Benjamin stammered. What are you doing here? The same thing you are, apparently, I replied calmly as I descended the stairs. Only I'm buying, not selling. Rick, my agent, approached with a professional smile. Do you know these people, Mrs. Caldwell? Unfortunately, yes, I said. This is my family. Or so I believed until recently. Mom, we need to talk, Benjamin said. Trying but failing to sound in control. About what, Benjamin? About how you intended to sell my house without my permission. About the forged documents you're working on. Or about the power of attorney you just mentioned that doesn't exist. The other agent looked uncomfortable and uncertain. Excuse me, he cut in. But if there's a legal dispute over the property, we can't continue with any appraisal until it's settled. There's no dispute, Eleanor said desperately. It's just that she hasn't been thinking clearly lately. I'm not thinking clearly, I repeated loudly, making sure everyone could hear. Is that why I'm here buying $1 million and a $500 house with my own money? Rick looked stunned. $1.5 million, Olivia whispered. Oh yes, dear granddaughter, I said with a sweet smile. It appears your senile grandmother has far more money than you assumed. I pulled out my phone and dialed Dr. Montgomery. Doctor, I'm at Richardson Associates Realty. My family is here trying to sell my property without authorization and claiming they have power of attorney over my affairs. Can you send someone from your office to document this situation? Of course, Mrs. Caldwell. Someone will be there in 15 minutes. I ended the call and looked at my family with a calmness that surprised me. Now, we're going to wait for my attorneys to arrive, I announced. They'll explain to everyone here exactly what legal documents you possess, how you got them, and why you think you have the right to sell my home. Benjamin tried to move closer. Mom? This is a misunderstanding. We can settle it at home. No, I said firmly, stepping back. There's nothing left to settle at home. I no longer have a home, at least not with you in it. Eleanor began to cry, but those were tears of panic, not sorrow. Martha, please. We're family. Everything we've done has been for your sake. For my sake, I asked, raising my voice. Stealing my money with fake credit cards was for my sake. Plotting to forge medical documents was for my sake. Hiring a criminal to fabricate my medical history was for my sake. Each accusation landed like an explosion in the lobby of the real estate office. Other clients and staff had stopped to listen, and I could read the shock and disgust on their faces. We don't know what you're talking about. Olivia denied it frantically. You don't. I pulled out my phone and played one of the recordings I had saved. Benjamin's voice echoed through the room. We'll make her truly lose her mind. We'll change her medications. We'll hide her belongings. We'll insist she did things she never did. In a month, any doctor will declare her mentally unstable. The silence inside the real estate office was suffocating. I could see the outrage and disgust on the faces of the employees and clients around us. That recording is illegal, Eleanor screamed wildly. Not in this state, I answered evenly. And certainly not when it's used to stop a crime that's being planned. At that moment, 2 attorneys from Dr. Montgomery's practice arrived with a public notary. Mrs. Caldwell, we are from the Montgomery and Associates firm. We understand there are individuals here claiming legal control over your affairs. That's correct, I said. I want you to officially record that these 3 people have no legal power over me, my assets, or my finances, and that any attempt to assume such control is an act of fraud. One of the attorneys turned to Benjamin. Sir, can you provide the paperwork that proves your authority to sell Mrs. Caldwell's property? Benjamin opened and closed his mouth like a gasping fish. We're in the process of. In other words, they don't have any documents, I announced, because they don't have any authority. What they do have is a criminal plan to take everything I own. The public shaming at the real estate firm was only the start. When we stepped outside, my family followed me down the street, shouting one moment and begging the next. Mom, wait, Benjamin yelled. We can fix this. It's all just a huge misunderstanding. Grandma, please, Olivia cried. I love you. You can't do this to us. Eleanor, meanwhile, had abandoned any pretense of affection. You're a spiteful old woman, she shrieked as I climbed into a taxi. You've taken advantage of us all these years. Benjamin gave you the best years of his life, and this is how you repay him. The best years of his life. I turned toward her through the taxi window. Do you mean the years I worked 18 hours a day to provide for him? The years I sacrificed my career, my friendships, my social life to raise him. Those were years you chose to adopt him. Eleanor replied with venom. Nobody forced you, and now you want eternal gratitude from us. I don't expect gratitude from you, I replied with ice-cold calm. I only expect that you don't rob me, don't betray me, and don't try to drive me insane to take my money. Apparently. That was too much to ask. I told the cab driver to pull away, leaving my relatives screaming on the sidewalk. That afternoon, Dr. Montgomery called me to his office for an urgent discussion. "Mrs. Caldwell, I have astonishing news," he said with a smile I'd never seen from him before. "Your family made a major error after the scene at the real estate company." "What kind of error?" In their panic, Benjamin went straight to the forger, Paul Hayes, and handed him $50,000 up front to rush the production of your falsified medical records. $50,000. Where did they get that kind of money? From the credit cards they opened in your name. And apparently Eleanor sold her car. But here's the best part. Paul Hayes is an informant for the FBI. He has been working with them for the past 6 months to take down a document forgery network. I stood speechless for a moment. You're telling me my family isn't just being investigated for defrauding me, but they're now facing a federal probe for conspiring to produce fake medical papers. The FBI has both video and audio evidence of the whole exchange. That night, from my hotel suite, I made a decision I had delayed too long. I would confront each relative on my own terms, but not in person. I had something far more powerful planned. I opened my laptop and created an account on the nation's most popular live streaming site. My title was direct and effective. A grandmother exposes the truth about her family. At 8 in the evening, I launched my first live broadcast. At first, there were only 3 viewers, but to my surprise, the count started climbing quickly. "Good evening," I said, staring straight into the camera. "My name is Martha Caldwell. I'm 70 years old. And tonight I'm going to share a story that will change how you view perfect families." In 20 minutes, I had over 500 viewers. By the end of the hour, there were more than 3,000. I told everything, from Benjamin's adoption to the secret message from Docker. Sterling, from the fraudulent credit cards to the scheme to drive me insane. I played the recordings, displayed the documents I had gathered, and described every betrayal in exact detail. The live comments poured in with support. "What a disgusting family. Mrs. Caldwell, you're a fighter. Take legal action. Make them pay. My grandmother went through something similar. Thank you for your courage." But the real turning point came when I received a live call in the middle of the stream. It was Olivia. "Grandma, please end the stream," she begged. "You're destroying our lives." "I'm destroying your lives," I said loudly so every viewer would hear. "Didn't you destroy mine first? Grandma, everyone is watching. My friends, my teachers, and the whole school. I can't even step outside. And how do you think I'd feel if you had me locked in a nursing home against my will, declared mentally incompetent, and stripped of all my money? That was never actually going to happen. We were just considering possibilities. Considering possibilities. I yelled for the first time in days, losing the composure I had held on to. "Olivia, I raised you from the time you were an infant. I changed your diapers. I took you to school. I cared for you when you were sick. And you stood there smiling while your parents plotted to destroy me." The silence from the other end was overwhelming, but the live comments exploded. "Tell her the truth. This girl has no shame. Mrs. Caldwell, don't let her fool you." "Grandma," Olivia finally said with a shaky voice. I needed money for college and other things. You thought what, Olivia? You assumed I was your personal ATM. You thought you could help plan to drive me insane and then use my money for your education. It's not like that. Then what is it like? Tell the 4,000 people watching us right now. Tell them why you told your friends you needed loans to cover my medical bills while I was completely fine." Another pause, then barely audible words. "How did you find out?" "Because I'm not the senile old woman you imagine. I know everything, Olivia. Everything. Including things about you your parents don't know." "What? What things?" "Things that could damage your future far worse than this stream ever will." She hung up instantly, but the harm was already done. The audience had just heard my granddaughter indirectly admit she knew about the plot against me. 5 minutes later, my phone rang again. This time it was Benjamin, and his voice was burning with rage. "Mom, turn off that stream right now," he bellowed. "Hello, Benjamin," I answered sweetly. Would you like to speak to the 5,000 people who are watching us? This is defamation. I'm going to sue you for slander. Slander. Is it slander to play audio where you all conspire to make me lose my mind? Is it slander to show bank records that prove you've been stealing from me for months? Those recordings are illegal. Not in this state, son. And certainly not when they're used to stop a crime. But tell me, would you like to explain to everyone why you paid a document forger $50,000 yesterday afternoon? The silence was so long I assumed he had hung up. How? How do you know that? Because Paul Hayes is an FBI informant. Congratulations, Benjamin. Now you're not only under investigation for defrauding your own family, but also for federal conspiracy. You're lying. Want to test that theory? Watch the news tomorrow. Or better yet, wait for the federal agents to show up at your door. The live chat exploded. FBI, this family is going to prison. Mrs. Caldwell is a legend. Justice for Grandma. Mom, Benjamin said in a shattered tone. Nothing like the fury he'd shown seconds earlier. Please stop this. We can still work it out. We're family, aren't we, Benjamin? I answered with real sorrow. A family doesn't betray. A family doesn't steal. A family doesn't plan to destroy one of their own mentally. What you are is not a family. You're a criminal network with a shared last name. We gave you 45 years of our lives. You didn't give me 45 years. I gave you 45 years of my life. I sacrificed everything for you and you. You were just waiting for me to die so you could inherit what you imagined I had. We need that money, Mom. We have debts, problems. And that's why you chose to drive me insane. That's why you chose to rob me. That's why you chose to wreck the final years of my life. It wasn't personal. Those 3 words hung in the air like a verdict. It wasn't personal. 45 years of devotion, work, and love, and for him, it wasn't personal. You're right, Benjamin. I said at last. It wasn't personal to you all, and from now on it won't be personal for me either. I'll see you in court. I hung up and looked straight into the camera. And that, dear viewers, was my family, I said with a mournful smile. Tomorrow I'll continue this story. Good night. I ended the stream with more than 7,000 viewers and hundreds of supportive messages. For the first time in weeks, I went to sleep knowing I wasn't alone in this fight. The next morning, I awoke to my phone erupting with alerts. My live stream had gone viral. I had thousands of supportive messages, countless interview requests from journalists, and, to my surprise, dozens of notes from other elderly people who had lived through similar abuse. Mrs. Caldwell, one message read, "My son did exactly the same thing. Thank you for your courage. You've inspired me to take action." Another read, "I'm an attorney who specializes in elder abuse. Your case is a textbook example. If you need further help, I'll represent you free of charge." But the message that touched me most came from a woman named Carol Sterling. "Mrs. Caldwell, I'm a social worker. Just yesterday, after watching your stream, I stopped a family from committing their 75-year-old father. Your bravery is saving other grandparents. Doctor." Montgomery called me at 9 in the morning. "Mrs. Caldwell, I have news that changes everything," he said, smiling in a way I'd never seen. "The FBI arrested Paul Hayes last night, and during questioning, he confessed the entire deal with your relatives. Everything. Not only did he admit that Benjamin paid him to forge medical documents, but he also revealed that your family asked him to produce a fake will in your name, stating you were mentally incompetent and leaving everything to them. I felt like I had been struck in the gut. A forged will. Apparently, the scheme was far more elaborate than we suspected. Their plan was to use the fake medical files to have you committed. Then they'd use the forged will and wait for you to die in the care facility to inherit everything legally. My God, I whispered. How long had they been plotting this? According to Paul Hayes, Eleanor first contacted him 4 months ago. This wasn't a last-minute act of desperation. It was a calculated, pre-planned conspiracy. That afternoon, as I tried to absorb this new information in my hotel suite, I received an unexpected call. It was Olivia, and for the first time in weeks, her voice sounded truly broken. "Grandma, can we please talk? Just you and me." "For what, Olivia?" "So you can lie to me again." So you can play on my emotions. No, Grandma. To be honest, completely honest, I can't live with this anymore. Something in her tone made me pause. I chose to take a chance. All right, but it will be in a public place with witnesses, and I'm recording every word. Whatever you want, just please. We met in the hotel lobby cafe. Olivia arrived with swollen, tear-reddened eyes, dressed carelessly, a stark contrast to the vain girl I knew. Grandma, she said before I could speak. You need to understand that I never wanted things to reach this point. How far, Olivia? What did you consider acceptable? At first, Mom and Dad only talked about persuading you to move into an upscale nursing home. They said it would be better for you, that you'd be around people your own age. And you believed that. I thought maybe it made sense. The house is huge for you alone, and sometimes you seemed lonely. She paused and met my gaze. But that was before I learned about the money. What money? They didn't know about my hidden accounts. No, but they knew about your pension, your savings at the local bank, the worth of the house. Mom had been digging for months, rifling through your documents when you weren't home. She would call your bank pretending to be you. She even went to see your former employer to ask about your retirement benefits. Each revelation was another cut, and when they decided that wasn't enough to convince me, Olivia broke into tears. When Mom realized you might live another 20 years, she said she couldn't wait that long, that she needed the money right away. Why did she need it so urgently? To cover Dad's debts. He lost a fortune betting on sports the past 2 years. He owes over $100,000 to some very dangerous individuals. Another blow. Benjamin hadn't just lost his job. He was addicted to gambling and buried in dangerous debt. And what role did you play in this? I needed money for college and other things. She touched her stomach without realizing it. Other things like what, Olivia? I'm pregnant, Grandma, she finally said. The father is a married man who wants nothing to do with the baby. I need money to figure out what to do. My heart ached for my granddaughter, but a surge of fury rose in me as well. And that's why you went along with a plan to drive me insane. I didn't know they wanted to make you insane, she shouted, drawing stares from nearby tables. I just thought they wanted a doctor to say you needed special care. What's the difference, Olivia? I don't know. I guess there isn't a difference. She cried quietly for a few minutes. Grandma, when you left the house, everything collapsed. Dad and Mom do nothing but scream at each other. Mom says it's all Dad's fault because of his gambling. Dad says it's Mom's fault for being too ambitious. And I'm stuck in the middle, pregnant and terrified. And now, what do you expect from me? I want you to forgive me. And I want you to know that if you testify against Mom and Dad, I'm going to tell the truth. Everything I know, everything I witnessed, everything I heard. I stayed silent, trying to absorb this unexpected offer. Why switch sides now, Olivia? Because last night, Dad told me that if everything falls apart, they're going to say it was my idea to steal your jewelry. They're going to claim I manipulated them into it because I needed money for drugs. Drugs. I don't do drugs, Grandma. But Dad says it's easier to blame the rebellious teenager than admit they plotted everything. The final betrayal. They hadn't just betrayed me. They were ready to throw their own daughter under the bus to save themselves. Do you have proof of what you're telling me? Olivia pulled out her phone. I have recordings of all their arguments since you left. I have text messages where they plan to blame me. I have videos of Mom counting the cash she got from selling your jewelry. Why did you record all of that? Because a week ago, I realized that when this is all over, they're going to abandon me too. I'm underage. I'm pregnant. And I have no money. They're going to need someone to blame. And that someone is going to be me. I examined her carefully, trying to see if this was another manipulation or if I was finally hearing the truth. Olivia, if you testify against your parents, your life will change forever. Your relationship with them will be destroyed. My relationship with them is already destroyed, Grandma. From the moment they used me in their plan against you, and then decided to sacrifice me to save themselves. And what do you want in return for your testimonies? I want you to help me finish high school. I want you to help me make the right decision about my pregnancy. And I want you to teach me how to be a strong woman like you. For the first time in weeks, I felt a spark of the connection I once had with my granddaughter. Olivia, if you do this, if you help me get justice, I won't just help you with school and your situation. I'll teach you something far more valuable. What? I'll teach you that real family isn't defined by blood, but by loyalty, respect, and sincere love. And sometimes protecting yourself means walking away from toxic people, even if they share your last name. Olivia reached her hand across the table. Deal, Grandma. I shook her hand, knowing this moment marked the beginning of the end for Benjamin and Eleanor. Deal, my girl. But now you're my ally, and allies protect each other. Are you ready for that responsibility? More ready than I've ever been for anything in my life. The day of the trial arrived sooner than I imagined. In 3 weeks, doctors. Montgomery had built a case so strong that even my family's expensive attorney recommended they plead guilty to get a lighter sentence. But Benjamin and Eleanor refused. They wanted to go to trial, convinced they could sway the jury by pretending to be a caring family looking after a confused grandmother. On the day the trial started, I walked into the courthouse wearing my most elegant black suit, with Olivia beside me. She had moved into the hotel with me during the legal process. Are you nervous, Grandma? She asked as we climbed the courthouse steps. No, my girl, I answered with calm. I'm at peace. The truth always surfaces. The courtroom was full. My story had become national news after several media outlets covered my live streams. There were reporters, cameras, and dozens of elderly people who had come to support me. When I saw Benjamin and Eleanor at the defense table, I barely knew them. Benjamin had lost weight and had dark circles under his eyes. Eleanor looked frail and anxious. The strain of knowing they might spend years in prison had worn them down. The prosecutor laid out the case brilliantly. He played the audio recordings where they plotted to make me seem insane. He revealed credit card fraud. He described the scheme with the document forger. And finally, he showed the evidence of the fraudulent mortgage on my house. But the most shocking part was when Olivia took the stand as a witness for the prosecution. Miss Caldwell, the prosecutor asked, can you tell us what you heard when your parents discussed their plans for your grandmother? With a steady, unwavering voice, Olivia recounted every conversation, every scheme, every betrayal. She described how they had planned to switch my medications, how they had calculated the amount of money they would gain from my death, and how they intended to blame her if everything failed. When she finished her testimony, the silence in the courtroom was overwhelming. I noticed several jurors wiping tears from their faces. The defense attorney tried to undermine Olivia, accusing her of lying just to get money from me. Miss, isn't it true that you're pregnant and need financial support? He asked harshly. Yes, I'm pregnant, Olivia answered with dignity. And yes, I need help, but I'm not lying to get it. I'm telling the truth because it's the right thing to do. And isn't it convenient that your grandmother offered you financial help in return for your testimony? My grandmother did not offer me money in exchange for my testimony, Olivia responded confidently. She offered me support because I finally had the courage to do the right thing. There's a difference? When it was my turn to testify, I walked to the stand feeling the weight of every gaze in the room. Mrs. Caldwell, the prosecutor said, can you tell us how you felt when you uncovered your family's plans? I felt like my whole life had been a lie for 45 years, I said. They didn't just betray me. They made me question every moment of love I thought we shared. They made me wonder if I was ever anything more than a barrier between them and my money. And how do you feel now? Now I feel free, I said, looking straight at Benjamin. Free from the lies, free from the manipulations, and free from the burden of loving people who never truly loved me. The defense lawyer tried to portray me as a wealthy, vengeful woman blowing things out of proportion. Mrs. Caldwell, isn't it true that you have millions of dollars you never told your family about? It's true I have assets they didn't know about, I admitted. but those assets do not justify plotting to make me insane, stealing my identity, or forging legal documents. Don't you think your family deserved to know about that money? Deserved? Why? For planning to have me committed? For stealing from me for months? For betraying me in the cruelest way imaginable? The trial lasted 5 days. After only 2 hours of deliberation, the jury returned with a unanimous verdict guilty on every charge. Benjamin received 12 years in prison for conspiracy, fraud, document forgery, and elder abuse. Eleanor was sentenced to 10 years for the same crimes, plus additional charges for mortgage fraud. When the judge read the sentences, Eleanor broke into tears. Benjamin just stared ahead, expressionless. Afterward, as we exited the courthouse, a reporter asked, "Mrs. Caldwell, do you believe justice was served?" "I believe legal justice was served," I said. But the true justice was realizing who I really was before it was too late to enjoy the rest of my life. 6 months later, I purchased a lovely house on the edge of the city. It's smaller than my old one, but it's bright and has a beautiful garden where Olivia and I spend our afternoons. Olivia finished high school with honors and chose to keep the baby. She is now studying law, inspired by what we lived through. She says she plans to focus on elder protection. "Grandma," she said a few weeks ago as we worked in the garden, "do you ever regret adopting Dad?" "I don't regret adopting him," I said, brushing the flowers we planted. "I only regret not realizing sooner that kindness should never come at the cost of destroying oneself." And what did you learn from all of this? I learned that true family isn't defined by blood or shared years. It's defined by mutual respect, genuine loyalty, and unconditional love. I learned that it's better to be alone with dignity than surrounded by betrayal. And I learned that it's never too late to begin again. Now, at 71, I'm living the best years of my life. I travel, I read, I've made new friends. And most importantly, I have a real relationship with my granddaughter. The daughter of my heart I always longed for. Benjamin and Eleanor have tried to reach me from prison several times, but their letters go straight into the trash, unopened. Some doors, once closed, must remain closed forever. Every night before I fall asleep, I give thanks for 3 things: for Dr. Sterling, who had the courage to warn me, for the strength I never knew I possessed, and for understanding that endings can also become beginnings if you have the courage to write your own story. Kindness still matters in my life, but I now practice it with wisdom. I help other older people facing similar situations. I support Olivia with her studies, and I've established a foundation to fight elder abuse. But more important than any of that, I finally learned to love myself as much as I loved everyone else my whole life. And that, my dears, is the most valuable lesson of